All right, back with another video here. Just something basic on a little bit of corruption, I believe, corruption in the calendar months that we're in. I lived all my life not knowing that I was actually not in the correct month, or I should say, in the correct numerical month for the year I was in. A lot of people probably don't know this, but in 1750 in England, they made January 1st, the month of January, the first month of the year, of the calendar year. However, the calendar is based on solar cycles. And in ancient times, before 1750, all the way back through Rome, Sumer, Mesopotamia, Egypt, they followed the sun. And so in nature, March is actually the first month of the year, and most people don't really know that. And I'm kind of going to go over a basic way in which I can sort of prove that. Actually, I can definitely prove that. It's pretty simple. But first, we'll go over just the equinoxes and solstices. June 21st is the summer solstice, and December 21st is the winter solstice. The 21st of March and the 21st of September are the equinox. Equinox means equal night. So in these days, there's 12 months of light and 12 months of darkness. This is the shortest day of the year, December 21st. This is the longest day of the year, the height of summer, June 21st. These 4 points are called the cardinal points, the cardinal directions. They're sacred days, sacred solar days in which the sun's power has a greater effect on the life of the planet, all the plants, animals, and the minds of man. These are sacred days because, and they're called cardinal in Latin because in Latin, cardi means the hinge. So they're referring to the days in which the doors open for the solar light to come in. And we'll just go really quickly through the zodiacal signs. You have 360 degrees divided into 12 equal pie slices. Each zodiacal slice is 30 degrees of the celestial sky. So I'll read this real quick, just off the internet. I think this is a Wikipedia. It just talks about March as being the first month of the year. I don't know if you can see this here. I'll read it aloud to you. The name of March comes from the Latin Martius, the first month of the earliest Roman calendar. It was named for Mars, the Roman god of war, who was also regarded as the guardian of agriculture and an ancestor to the Roman people through his sons Romulus and Remus. His month, Martius, was the beginning of the season for both farming and warfare and the festivals held in his honor. During this month, it was mirrored. Other festivals were mirrored in October. Mauritius, sorry, I don't know how to say that, remained the first month of the Roman calendar year, perhaps as late as 153 BC. So there you have it. It was called Martius after the planet Mars, but it was also called Primo in Latin. And Primo means first, primo, number one. This is where we get the word for, in Italian or Latin, for primavera, which is the first blossom, the first fruits, which always occurred just after March 21st, which is the spring equinox. And the reason being is because as the sun goes through the sky, it pops over this equator or equinox into the sign of Aries. And that marks the end of winter and the beginning of spring. And this is why spring is called primavera in Italian. And April, actually in Latin, refers to the hinge again. Abril and abierto in Spanish mean to open the door. So April is just the root for to open, and this is when Aries arises, and that's actually the word Aries. Actually, if you just move the I and the E around, Aries, it just means to arise. And this is when the sun pops over the equinox and arises for the first fruits and for spring. This is also where we get the word for Ra. Ra is just backwards in there. AR is also RA. Ra, which is the sun god, one of the sun gods or aspects of the sun god of ancient Egypt. Ra was one of the, when the sun was at its height and its power. So midday would be Ra. Would be right here, June 21st. So March is called Primo, and the reason why I can prove that is as you go around the calendar and you come over to, let's say, September. Well, what does sept mean in Latin? A septenary is a group of 7. So September means 7. However, in the West, since 1750, we've been taught that September is the 9th month of the year. However, it's not. It's the 7th, and this is why it's been named September for thousands of years. So if we go on further, we come after September is October. Well, what does oct mean? What is an octave? An octave is a group of 8. So in a musical scale, you have 7 notes that make up 8. So eight steps. That's an octave. So October, we've been taught our whole lives, is the 10th month of the year. But it's not the 10th month of the year. It's actually referring to 8. As we go on, Nove is where we get the number 9. So November refers to 9. And then a really easy one, when you have the word deca, like a dodecahedron, refers to 10. Dece in Latin is 10. So December, we've been taught, is the 12th month of the year, but it's not. It's the 10th month of the year, because according to nature and the way the sun actually goes, or we revolve around the sun, and its light shines across our planet as we rotate and orbit, we create this solar cross, these solstices and these equinoxes. And this solar cross is the cross of Christianity. It's also the Ankh, the Egyptian Ankh. It's the Native American medicine wheel. It's the Celtic cross. It's actually just about every cross you've ever seen in your life comes from this. So January is actually the 11th month. February is actually the last month of the year. And then back to March, being Primo. So there you have it. It's written right in the words of the month. All right, now I'm going to move on to couple other little points here. Back to the word Ra. Ra is the sun god in Egypt, Amun-Ra. And this is actually where modern astronomers get their term for, it's like an anagram for right ascension. So in astronomy, Ra is right ascension. And when they say, hey, look at this this star and it's in this quadrant, it will be 22 degrees right ascension in this particular quadrant. So that's a term for location or mapping the stars. It actually refers to the sun, Ra, the sun god. And the reason why it moves, from left to right or across right is because of the way that the sun appears to move on our planet. So, if this is the equator, well, actually we shouldn't use the planet here. We'll just use the equator like this. This is 47 degrees of movement from equinox to solstice to equinox, back to solstice, back to equinox. So kind of goes like this and makes an infinity sign. This is the sine wave of the sun. It's a 47 degree span if you're looking at the equator from space, dead on, even. And what happens is kind of like when you look over a body of water and you're watching the sun rise or set, it moves in a right ascension way. It moves right across the sky. So one day the sun will rise here, and it'll come up this way, and then the next day it'll be a little bit over to the right and come up this way, and then the next day it'll be a little bit to the right, come over this way, and the next day it'll be a little bit more to the right, and it'll go across this 47 degree span of the equator, and ascend to the right. And this is Ra, right ascension. And astronomers use that term all the time. Then let's see, what else? What else can we talk about here? Well, we'll go through the Chi-rho. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of the cross of Constantine, but I'll pull up an image of it really quick so you guys can see it. You've probably seen it in all kinds of movies. Images for the cross of Constantine.
Check out these pictures for the cross of Constantine.
There you go. Oh, this is a gray version. It's pretty hard to see. But you may have seen this in the movie Gladiator. Actually, Ben-Hur. In every movie that ever depicts the Roman army, they have this symbol on their shield. And it's a Christian symbol. And most people don't realize that Christianity is much older than Jesus Christ himself. And the 2160-year zodiacal sign of Pisces, in which he has been associated with. The reason why it's so much older is because it's actually referring to the sun. So Jesus Christ is referring to a sun god, just like Horus or Ra or Dionysus or Mithraeus, and goes on and on and on. But anyway, this sign is called the Cross of Constantine because he said he saw it in the sky and was told through a vision that if he put it on the shields of his soldiers that he would win all the wars he was in. And so he did that. I think that's pretty much a myth. But anyway, the point is that this same sign is exhibited in the Vatican. If you look at the Vatican from the sky, you'll see it's the largest sundial in the world. Images of the Vatican from the sky.
Check out these pictures for the Vatican from the sky.
Sorry for the pause there, you guys, but as soon as this comes into focus, I'll show you this image. It's kind of loading right there. If you look at this directly from the sky, you'll see that obelisk, that Egyptian obelisk, right in the middle of St. Peter's Cathedral. And the shadows that it makes on the ground during the equinoxes and the solstices actually make this cross. This is the Cross of Constantine. It's also called the Chi-rho, and it just shows you that the Vatican is worshiping the sun. They're a solar cult and have been for forever, since their inception. And so Christ actually refers to the sun. But back to this sign, basically you have a solstice, like so, and an equinox, like so. And then you have these midpoints as well. These are mid-solstices and midpoints. And so what happens is the sun would make a shadow from this obelisk right in the middle. The shadow would point in this direction at it's a particular statue right here. And this would be Easter, or March 21st, which is also called the East Star. That's where the word Easter comes from. It's the star that rises in the east during Primavera, or the month of first fruits, which is March 21st. And so on and so forth. So you'd get September, equinox would be here, and then you'd have the solstices here. So you'd have December 21st here, and you would have June 21st here. And then you're probably wondering what this little P looking thing is right here in this cross. It looks like a P. You're like, what is that? Well, what these really are, not only are they solstices, but the Greek alphabet actually created their alphabet, their symbols, the symbols for letters, based on nature. And so they actually have the initials for Jesus Christ as I, which is the same as Y in the Hebrew, which is the same as J in English. So that would be referring to Jesus, or J, and then they would have X for Christ. And those are the two letters in the Greek alphabet that actually make this symbol. And then the P that comes in there is actually not a P at all. So I want to make that clear. This is not a P. This is actually in reference to the sun. So you got to imagine that this is actually the sun moving this way through the zodiacal calendar of the year. And then you'll oftentimes see this sign. If you look up the symbol on the internet, you'll see the alpha over here along with the Chi-rho sign, the cross of Constantine. You'll see this A here, and you'll see the omega, which is something like this. But oftentimes you'll see the omega written like this. I'm sure you guys have all seen this, because this is the sign in the zodiac for when the sun crosses right here, September 21st. This is the signs of Libra, because the equator creates equality or scales. And so Libra is holding the scales for balance. And this is actually just a representation, it's very simple, of the sun crossing the equator. They just draw it like this. This is the sun dipping across the horizon, across the equator. So this is the cross of Constantine. The Vatican uses it. It's one of the largest buildings in the world, and it's a sundial. So you got to wonder what they're trying to say with that. Most Christians don't realize that Jesus was a helio-gnostic. He was not a Jew. He was a knower, a sun knower. So a helio-gnostic is one who knows the sun, knows the cycles of the sun. And the Chi-rho, this symbol's also called the Chi-rho because the I is called Chi in Greek. That's it. We say I, they say Chi. And the rho is, we say X, and they say rho. So this is called Chi-rho. And Chi is where we get the word Chi, which is spelled the exact same way. Chi refers to life, energy, prana, kundalini, Qi in Chinese medicine, Qi, Qi. And Rho refers to the sun, just like Ra. So this is the energy, literally the energy of the sun, which again is Jesus Christ, the helio-gnostic. So there you go. Hopefully you guys learned something about the months. Oh, actually one more thing. Back to this. We'll go through this very quickly. Whoops, I got this backwards. These days right here, there is a reason why in the United States we do keep the January as the beginning of our month. It's because directly opposing January 1st through 4th would be July 1st through 4th, which is America's independence. So we've written that document, the Declaration of Independence, and it happens to be celebrated or official on July 4th. That's our Independence Day. But you have to wonder, what's the significance of that? The reason is, there's a star that is directly in line with the Earth and the Sun on July 4th. Directly in the sky overhead at midnight. It's called Sirius, and it's our sister star. It's the star in which our sun is in a binary with. And that day, every day of the year, July 4th, is called apohelium. And that means the day when the sun is furthest away from the earth. Apohelium. And then directly below that opposing that 6 months later would be the day of perihelion. And perihelion is when the sun is closest to the earth. So they chose significantly to make the day of America's independence signed in based on the zodiac, or I should say based on the celestial bodies, based on astrotheology. So this is where all of our religious content comes from. And the United States is no different. So they built this entire country. And if you do a zodiacal birth chart on the day in which the United States, was founded and gained its independence, you'll see there's all these planets in their particular places. And all the way down to the time. So I'll just put this underneath the camera. I know it's hard to see this, but this is the actual birth chart of the United States of America. And you can see the day, Thursday, July 4th, 1776, and the time. So it's totally accurate. You can see all the planets and the degrees in which they are in at this day. So this is not a coincidence. This was done on purpose. And I'll show you how I can prove that is that there is no coincidence at all that the particular symbol that it makes in a physical chart is the Star of David. That's amazing if you ask me. This is very rare that you'd have a perfect two tetrahedrons or triangles overlaid in each other. These are Masonic symbols. The Star of David is actually not a Hebrew symbol. It goes back to Egypt. So there is some serious planning going on with the United States of America. So I'll just let you guys think about that. Thanks for watching.